Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. My name is Bob Bianchi. I'm going to be taking it from 12 to 3. Guys, we have so much on our plate today. So I got two extra special guests. One's a normal guest, but the thing that's extra special about today is that he, hashtag 4041, my boy from Virginia, Gene Rossi, is literally in studio. Hey, Gene.
He's alive. He's alive.
He is.
It's so good to be here.
It's great to be here, Gene.
It's great to be here.
You know, I have mad respect for your skills. 3 years at the DOJ, 3 decades at the DOJ, a Gene Rossi war room, and me and you just love kibitzing about trial on screen and off screen, so it's great to have you here. And, of course, still joining us from the Jesse Weber time is Elura Nanos, my good friend. Elura, how are you?
Hi, Bob. It's so great to see you today.
Elura and myself have appeared on so many different legal shows together. She's an extraordinarily talented lawyer. I was looking you up, Elura. You cannot escape my investigatory capacities. I love the thing. I was trying to find it. I wrote it down where you describe yourself as like a TV personality, a lawyer, a good cook, and you're also an accomplished flutist. But what was more impressive to me is I found out something that I never knew before. You don't like crawling plants, and you don't like raisins. So, Elura, I actually thought you were going to be on set today, so I specifically went out and purchased some raisins for you. But I'm going to have to give them the Rossi instead.
Bob, I can't take it. Raisins are like the sad story of grapes that could have been wine. And I can't do it.
Oh, my God, Elura, it is so good. I mean, we have so many laughs over the years doing our media stuff. You always make me smile for reasons just like that. But, hey, guys, we got some serious stuff here, too. And that's why, you know, we've learned, for those of us who have handled a lot of high-profile cases and murder cases, that you must have a sense of humor in order to get through it. But the Claudia Hoerig case is one that we covered on the Law and Crime Network, where it was really fascinating, where she was accused of murdering her boyfriend, or husband, I forget which at the time, and it was kind of disputed. She went to Brazil and she fled, and she wound up getting extradited back to the United States. And she's really a character. She's filed lawsuits. You see a picture over there from the jail saying that she's been discriminated upon and all sorts of issues and problems, and she was making all sorts of commotions inside and outside of the courtroom. But she took this stand, and when she did, we knew it was going to be something else, because she is a piece of work herself. And Gene Rossi, I know me and you covered this, when she took the stand, we don't think she helped herself at all either, in the manner in which she talked about what happened, which she says it was just really me versus him. I was trying to commit a suicide. He said some bad stuff and a bad thing happened, as opposed to a premeditated murder. Guys, I told you back at the time that I felt that her going to a gun shop and getting grips with laser scoping on them was going to be the death knell, if you will, no pun intended, of her defense. And let's listen to her on the witness stand, and we'll talk to Gene and Elura on the other end.
They buy cheap clothes, lots of it.
When Carl was home and you guys were in the house, did he have specific requirements for what you wear?
Yes. Basically, I could only wear a skirt, short skirt with heels. He liked that pom-pom heel, but I couldn't wear other shoes as long as it was high heel, open toes, and just a very small top during the day. But if, you know, it was other times, it was later at night, I had to walk around just in heels, no clothes, naked.
And why did you put up with all of this?
I wanted really to be married. I want to make him happy. I was used to high demand. I came from that kind of background that, you know, people were hard on me in my life, and I kind of was used to high demand, and he wasn't. The demand, what he did was different, but the demand, I was always used to meet people's demands. So he was a very demanding man, and I thought that over time he was going to mellow out. He was older, he was 40, I was 40. People get set in their ways. I thought even over time he was going to let go of that, those weird things that he did. I thought he was going to change.
All right, so there's Claudia Hoerig. You know, Elura, ladies first, and since I burdened you with the psychiatric issue with the raisins, it would only be appropriate to have you comment on this. I don't know how much you followed this case, but Claudia Hoerig took the stand, and we talked this before. I think the probably most dramatic one that the Law and Crime has covered was the Jason Van Dyke case when he took the stand. And we all know as trial lawyers, first of all, as a prosecutor, I am salivating to get the defendant on the witness stand. I'm doing everything I can, up to and including prayer. Please get on the witness stand so I can have my crack at you. And of course, as a defense lawyer, you know, most defense lawyers don't want their clients on the stand unless they absolutely have to. It's a risky proposition. And as the defense lawyer for this woman, I can imagine you were even more concerned. How did you think she did?
Well, not well. And I think that, you know, in these kind of cases where you have a woman who is telling the story of essentially being abused in some way over the years, and I know she wasn't saying that she was physically abused, but she is telling sort of the story of a sleeping with the enemy type abuse, you know, like a psychological abuse and a control kind of situation. But I think if you're going to go with that and you're going to try to, you know, have some kind of defense like she was emotionally disturbed or had battered wife syndrome or something along those lines, she's going to have to do a better job telling that story and being more sympathetic and making it sound worse. Not just, I've been through a lot over the years and I hoped he would change, but he didn't. That's just not, it's just not bad enough. It's not sympathetic enough.
Right, Gene, I mean, her whole demeanor in court, you know, the jury's watching everything before she took the stand. And then when she did take the stand, her combativeness, I don't think played well for that kind of defense.
Absolutely. And her defense is basically he was very demanding. He put a lot of stress on me. But I want to comment about what she just, how do you pronounce her first name?
Elura.
Elura. She hit the nail on the head. When a defendant takes a stand in all the cases I've had, you're right, I pray, I salivate. The emotion that they show to the jury about what they did, especially if it's a violent case, you have to show the jury that you are remorseful and that you went through pain. Watching her demeanor on the stand, I got the feeling that she was prepped and there wasn't a lot of connection that she made to the jury.
Yeah, I
think watching on television.
Yeah, and clearly in the end analysis, the jury didn't buy it. Guys, I am so happy to have both Gene and Elura with me to walk me through these cases. We got a lot on the plate. We only do it like this on the Law and Crime Network. It is the only network out there that does this kind of coverage and has these kind of experts. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As advertised, we were telling you that with Claudia Hoerig, just off camera, I was talking to Gene and Elura about the idea that when you're preparing to cross-examine a defendant, you're intuitively trying to figure out who is this person and how do you go about cross-examination. A good cross-examiner doesn't just go on one speed all the time. You got to use your common sense and your people skills. Now, one thing that I noted that if I were the prosecutor and praying that she took the witness stand and then they said she's going to take the witness stand, I would know she's a hot flash. She's full of passion. She's I want her to get angry. I want her to get agitated. I am going to, without being disrespectful to the jury, try to push her buttons, as it were, so long as the jury doesn't feel that I'm being unfair. Let's take a look at Claudia Hoerig on cross-examination.
Go down a different avenue here. Before you shot Carl Hoerig, you were upset that he had an engagement party for you at Put in Bay, correct?
I thought that was very weird. That was a sign that something...
Yes or no? I'm not asking for an explanation. All I want to know is yes or no. Before you shot him, you were upset that he had an engagement party for you at Put in Bay.
No, it has no connection with that.
You're
confused.
You were not upset with him about that?
No.
Okay. Before you shot him, you were upset that you married him after only 50 days of dating? No.
I wasn't mad about that.
You weren't mad about that. Before you shot him, were you upset that he trapped you or tricked you into marrying him?
No, I take blame for stuff.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Well, can Carl Hoerig come in this courtroom and testify?
No.
Okay, thank you. Can Carl Hoerig come in this courtroom and dispute or admit or deny anything you said to this detective or to this court yesterday?
No.
Gene, what I like about this cross-examination is the prosecutor knows where he's going with it, and he's using a technique. And people may think that this is easy to do. It's not. It's a skill learned, and you have to be creative. And that is, he's basically saying, before many questions, before you shot, and before you shot, and he's bringing through, in his case, every mode of evidence that he's got. He really doesn't even care about what her answers are. He's bringing his case through his questioning. Thoughts?
That's number one. And number two, when you do a cross of a defendant, your adrenaline is pumped, your heart is beating hard, and you got to kind of control yourself. And he's doing a good job, and he's using before you shot as sort of his fulcrum,
right,
his crutch. And you are absolutely right. He does not care what the answer is. And she's kind of now realizing he doesn't care, and it's kind of annoying her.
Right.
It did get a little high octane there towards the end.
Yeah.
But you get the feeling that with her eyes and her demeanor, and I'm always big on demeanor, the jury can see a demeanor of someone who is calculated. That's what I get from the television.
Right, absolutely. And so it's not just being able to ask the right questions, knowing how to present those questions. Let's listen to a little more.
A few days before you purchased that .357 handgun, you transferred $9,900 to Brazil.
Objection. That's not the evidence.
Is that the right number?
It was the same day.
Okay, the same day.
A few days before you bought the .357 on March 10th, may have been March 7th, 8th, 9th, I don't know, you transferred $9,900 to Brazil. Is that correct?
I bought the gun.
Yes or no?
No, that's not correct.
Okay. Did you transfer $9,900 to Brazil before you killed Carl Hoerig?
Yes.
Okay. On March 10th, that Saturday, 2 days before you shot Carl Hoerig, you went to Slugmasters and bought a .357 handgun, correct?
On Friday. Friday.
Well, March 10th.
Was it Friday? What?
Well, I'm not going to get into an argument about whether it was Friday or Saturday. March 10th was, according to my calendar, Saturday. If you want to call it a Friday, that's fine. But on March 10th, which was 2 days before you shot him, you bought a .357.
I'm not sure it was the 10th or the 9th. Yes, I did buy it before I shot him, of course.
Well, may I approach the witness and refresh her memory with the purchase that she made? Thank you.
So, Elura, I like the guy's style. In addition to what Gene is saying, now he's getting to something really substantive here, this gun. And that was really the central theme here, is that she goes out and she gets this gun, actually tries to get a second gun, supposedly to commit a suicide, which makes no sense, and then asks that special hand grips where it's laser scoped, which wouldn't make sense for somebody to commit a suicide. So we know those facts are not good for the defense, but what I like is the manner in which the prosecutor is presenting it. And let's also talk about the idea that, sometimes witnesses can control you. And this guy is not having any of it. He keeps like, no, that's not what I'm asking you. Answer my question. Believe me, I've seen witnesses actually start asking the lawyer questions. He's really good.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that with this witness, in this case, with this evidence, it's working very well. The one thing, though, I would say is that I think one of the reasons why it's playing so well, the fact that he does have that control and that he's being so aggressive, is because of her demeanor, because she doesn't seem particularly remorseful. She seems like something of a strong kind of character. I think if she had been a totally different type of personality, I think that this lawyer's demeanor would be really bad, because it is clear that he's controlling things. If she were more of a sympathetic witness, we wouldn't want him to be controlling it so much.
Well, Gene Rossi, and Gene Rossi, to that point, but that's what the skill of a trial lawyer is. And to Elura's point, I'll add one thing. It depends on what kind of case you have. You don't act that way maybe in a fraud case or a white-collar case, opposed to a murder case. You can get away with more with a violent crime.
I did one of the worst cross-examinations in history.
I don't believe that.
In 1991, in Cleveland, Ohio, jury trial. It was a tax case. And I was treating it like a quadruple murder case. And I learned that your demeanor and your proportionality in asking the questions, approaching the witness is crucial. He did a good job. He did a really good job.
Right. So I think that he's good to be aggressive that way because he's got the right kind of case, i.e. a murder case.
Yeah.
He's got the right kind of defendant, somebody who's been surly prior to even taking a stand, and the jury has seen that. So, guys, listen, we got a lot on our plate, like I said, here at the Law and Crime Network. We got multiple trials that we're covering. We have two of the best guests that I could think of. I'm so happy. I got Gene Rossi actually here. And by the way, Gene, you will be hosting from 3 to 5 today. With the great Linda Kenny Baden.
Yes.
You guys, you can't get away from your screens. You've got to watch that too. We'll be right back. All right, Gene and Elura, we got to get back to this case. There was a very interesting scenario. The defendant had fled to Brazil, and it took quite a while to get her extradited back to the United States so she could face trial. She wanted to be tried in Brazil, if anywhere, because she didn't believe that she could get justice in the American court system. Nevertheless, our boys and girls at the U.S. side of the equation got a hold of her, and an Anthony Sano, as a retired FBI special agent, talks about the encounter with her on the plane. And it's interesting because, watch, sometimes with that special kind of defendant, that je ne sais quoi kind of defendant, they just can't stop talking. Let's take a look.
Did you have any specific instructions as to what you were to do as part of the escort to bring her back to the United States?
Yes, we were asked, and this is delivered to me by Deputy U.S. Marshal Bill Bolden, that your office, the prosecutor's office, asked that we not interrogate her and therefore not Mirandize her.
And what happened, in your own words, on that flight back, if anything was said by her, and tell the jury how that occurred?
She then stated that she was standing in the hallway, and when he exited the bedroom, she put the gun to her head and threatened to shoot herself. She said Carl responded by telling her to go ahead and kill herself, but to go to the basement so he did not get blood on his carpet and on the walls and the paintings in the hallway.
Claudia Hoerig case. Elura, just give our audience a brief understanding of Miranda and the first witness who had indicated they didn't read Miranda because they weren't going to ask questions. Just let our audience know the basics of Miranda.
Yeah, so a lot of people have a misconception that if a person has not properly read their Miranda rights, that the entire case goes away. And that is not the case at all. The Miranda warnings are there. The ruling on Miranda is that a criminal defendant needs to be advised of their rights. And if they're not advised of their rights, statements that they make are not going to be able to be brought in against them, or at least confessions perhaps cannot be brought in against them. However, we have in this case a situation where she's just talking, and the talking is not in response to questions being asked by the officers.
Yeah, well, Gene, let's go to tactics here. Miranda essentially is saying if you are in custody and you're asked questions, but there have been a plethora of cases that you don't have to ask a specific question. If you're eliciting data, well, look, we've been around the block. We all know that cops want people to start talking. So and I have extradited people and brought people from faraway places to face the music on murder cases. One, why didn't they have a prosecutor's detective there or somebody who was familiar with the case? Two, if they couldn't do that, why didn't these agents become familiar with the case? Because you don't want her to, as we would say in the business, pucker up when she gets off that plane and decide not to talk. Talking is key, and it usually happens in the beginning. This was foolish to me.
Well, I love the FBI. I worked a lot with the marshals. I don't know why they not give her Miranda rights. She's in custody. Even if she's going to talk, they would have interrogation follow-up questions. They should have been briefed on the facts of the case so that if she does talk, they would be able to have questions about specific facts of the case. They lost an opportunity.
Right, and Gene, honestly, they're lucky they got in what they're getting in, because a court could have ruled, you know what, you didn't ask a question, but you were soliciting that data and you didn't stop her.
Absolutely. There's a famous case called Brewer versus Williams where a defendant was in custody, and the agents or the law enforcement kind of elicited, without questioning, certain information from the defendant, and it was ruled inadmissible. So you always err in giving Miranda instructions.
Yeah, listen, having been a person who was making these calls as the head prosecutor, I would clearly have had a game plan in place to have her rights read nice and easy. You got a long plane ride to go, build a rapport, get her talking, and so that it becomes admissible on the other end of that. Know the case. These are things that can actually help you as a prosecutor. It's strange to me. Got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. We're doing Claudia Hoerig right now, and the defense is saying this is not murder. This is something less than murder. And the prosecution is saying, no, it's murder. And they go back and forth, and then Claudia Hoerig takes the witness stand, and the prosecutor is aggressively cross-examining her. But in the end of the day, it only results in 12 people making a decision. And what's going to happen to Claudia Hoerig? Well, we found out. Let's go to the verdict, the most exciting and nail-biting part of the case.
Case duly impaneled and sworn or affirmed, find the defendant, Claudia C. Hoerig, guilty of aggravated murder as she stands charged in the first count of the indictment, dated this date, signed by all 12 jurors. As to the specification, we, the jury, in this case duly impaneled and sworn or affirmed, find the defendant, Claudia C. Hoerig, did, at the time of committing aggravated murder, have a firearm on or about her person under her control, brandished the firearm, indicated that she possessed it or used it to facilitate the offense, again dated this date and signed by all 12 jurors. Ms. Fowler, did I properly read the verdict of your jury? Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further from the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Okay, there you go. Wasn't really something that was unexpected. They found the aggravating factors. We talk about that a lot on the Law and Crime Network. Those are what we call sometimes special circumstances, not just the murder, but there's additional things that the law says makes it even more elevated as far as a crime is concerned. She went down for the highest count, a clear and complete victory for the prosecution in the case. But you know what, guys? When you deal with murder cases long enough, you realize that it's what I call collateral consequences that ripple through the lives, certainly of the victim and the victim's families, but also the defendant and the defendant's families. It's never a happy place, although you're satisfied with the result you got when you bring justice to a victim's family in a case like this. Let's listen to the brother of the victim because, in the end analysis, my experience has been the families are very happy that they secured justice, but it's never going to bring the person back. And some of these victim impact statements can be really compelling.
I'm Paul Hoerig, Carl's younger brother. Words cannot express the pain and anguish my family has endured since Carl's murder. Claudia's decision to needlessly take my brother's life with no regard for the effects it would have on others is unimaginable. The loss of my brother is beyond words. The fact Claudia so arrogantly fled to a foreign country after killing my brother has been both heartbreaking and frustrating. Knowing Claudia selfishly went on with a normal life, starting a business, and getting remarried as if nothing had happened is difficult for me to comprehend. She lived free and in the open for over 9 years while my family and I struggled to have her detained. This nightmare was followed by almost 2 years of her filing numerous appeals to stay in Brazil. Her selfish and deceptive actions of playing games with her U.S. citizenship to maintain her freedom in Brazil reveals her true character. It has been exceptionally brutal and emotionally draining for my family to have spent 10 years and 10 months fighting to have her extradited from Brazil. There have been countless days writing, calling, emailing to gain support, missing work, attending meetings, just to bring her back to the United States. It literally took the efforts of a team, family, friends, the prosecutor, law enforcement, politicians, the state and justice departments, who have spent countless time and effort over 10 years and 10 months to finally have her extradited back to Trumbull County. Nothing this court can do will bring back my brother, but I ask this court to consider the premeditated, senseless, brutal murder of my brother. Carl selflessly served this country and was a caring father, son, brother, and friend. I ask you to consider Claudia's behavior. fleeing to a foreign country, fighting extradition, a lack of remorse, committing perjury, making false claims, and attempting to smear numerous people, including Carl, myself, and members of my family. United States officials entered into an agreement with Brazil which limited the sentence Claudia can serve in prison. This agreement was necessary to secure her extradition. I believe we should honor this agreement. Therefore, I fully support the prosecutor's recommendation of 25 years to life, plus 3 years for the gun specification. Carl was a man of honor, and he would have wanted us to honor this agreement. With that said, when the time comes, I, along with other family members, will be there to meet with the parole board to demand Claudia is treated like all other inmates. I will be there to tell Carl's story. Under the conditions, Claudia accepts full responsibility and is a model inmate. I will support parole at 30 years. I wish to express my sincerest gratitude for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my family.
Welcome back. That's the brother of the victim there giving some very powerful victim impact testimony. You know, Gene, I remember back in the day when I started trying homicide cases, believe it or not, we were not required to even contact the victim's family. The victim's family didn't have the right to be able to allocute before the court. And wow, 30 years later, how far we have come as to the power that victims have under the victim crime bills that have been passed in many of the states. And in truth, the power that that has on the judge's sentencing when they see the raw emotion of the continued effects.
Well, when I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office, we had a victim witness unit. And even if we had a guilty plea, Bob, we would have to tell the victim so they could comment on whether that plea should be accepted. But at sentencing, I always wanted a victim to say something. And Paul Hoerig, that was one of the best victim statements. He was a prosecutor. She fled, no remorse, perjury. Carl served his country. That was beautiful.
Yeah, Elura, what are your thoughts about that?
I agree. It was a fantastic victim impact statement, and the thing about it that I thought was most compelling is that you can hear that the brother he's not out there for vengeance, because he's saying, if she's a good inmate and she's a model inmate, I will support her release at 30 years. And to me, that is so powerful. Because, he didn't have to say that, and that shows that he has this sort of fair-minded view on all this, which I think makes the entire statement just that much more credible.
Yeah, Elura, it's funny. In all the years that I've done this, it's been amazing me how some families respond to it in one way and other families respond to it another way. I agree with you completely. I hear you have to go. I will keep your raisins right here for the next time that we encounter one another. Thank you so much, Elura. We still have a lot more Law and Crime. My boy Gene Rossi will be right back.